Okay guys, welcome. I want to start off. Today we're going to learn how to do modifiers onto our models. This is very simple. It's just adding a modifier through this little drop down list I've got here. Let me just maximize the screen. Okay, so the modifier list can be accessed through on the top view, as you can see here by the modifier, or let me just move this at the bottom. Today I'm gonna create something from this little picture I have here to show you the dimensions I talked about previously when we're padding to the power of 2. I've got mine set at 2048, so that's half 4K. The reason I'm doing the whole half 4K thing and padding to the power of 2 is specifically because I just want to show you this picture. That's what we're working with. That's the pad to the power of 2 dimensions you can use when doing pictures. So let's continue. First off, we're going to start by creating a little simple block. Okay, little block. I'm going to do the entire padded area. Scale it up. Then, as you can see, my block is the whole area full. Open my maps, and I know you guys, it's different on your side, but just scroll down at that base color. You'll see a little white block that you can press on there, and that will let you select the color that you want to use, or otherwise you can select a texture just by scrolling down. So I'm gonna put that texture I just made into that material by scrolling down, and there's the block I refer to. You can choose a color from that block there anywhere and assign it to each of those models there on top. There's the color carousel, so just look for the first white block you see when you scroll down on a material, and you can pick a color. So if you pick that color, there's the color assign button, and as you can see, it gets assigned. But we're not going to use that. We're going to scroll down, look for a base color, and next to select bitmap lookup. So yours works exactly the same as mine there, except you're not using physical materials. You're using the default materials that was provided with the trial version. There I applied my material. As you can see, it's a little bit oversized, but it's perfectly rendered onto each side as I made my texture, if you can remember from the picture I showed you. So what I want to do with this, I want to scale this texture, and I'm going to do this by moving here to the modifier side. Let me minimize this. Now with the box selected, I'm going to change that into an editable mesh, and then select my element so I can select the entire block. There you go. And now I want to start. Okay, first I want to do 2 sides. I've got 4 sides to this. As you can see in my picture, I've got 1, 2, 3, I've got 2 sides specifically. So in order to do that, we're going to use a UVW map. As you can see there, I selected it by the modifier list. It's this little drop down on top here, and when you select the modifier list, as you can see, when I rotate with the modifier selected, it rotates my model. We don't want to rotate the model, so with the drop down there, I'm going to select the gizmo. Now with the gizmo selected, look what happens when I move my modifier. Now the UVW map is the padding of your texture onto your model. So I'm just going to go back, and now I'm going to go through it. There's your cylindrical mapping. So it's trying to do a spherical shape to it. Shrink wrap, box. As you can see, box looks good. It gives you 4 corners and a top and a bottom. So you can control that box there. Okay, it's looking perfect, but you can see it's overlapping on the sides, and we want to stretch it. So there you can see when you start stretching it, you actually stretching the material, the texture. If you scroll down here on the right hand side, one button stands out, it's fit. Look what happens. If I press fit, immediately the texture fits to the panels. Now I can still, with the gizmo selected, I can still resize it. So what I want to do, I want to make two sides, the bottom part of the texture, and I want to make two sides, the top part of the texture. So let's try and get this perfect. I'm going to resize this, and as you can see, all I'm doing, I'm using my navigational buttons like the left, right, rotate and scroll and resize to actually manipulate the texture on the model. The model is standing still and I get to move the texture. So I'm just going to resize it, and here's where you have to think how you're going to do it. So with this in mind, I'm going to move my texture so I have no white sides, because you want your texture to fit perfectly on the model. So I want all white to be out of the model so that we can only see the entire texture on the model. So you can still see some pieces of white sticking through there. So what I want to do, I just want to resize it a little bit, still to close those few sides that's still showing white. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to copy collapse to imprint this into the model. You'll see now my modifier has disappeared. I have imprinted this into the model. Now you can see there's no modifier anymore. I can't resize the texture. So now I'm going to select my polygon. So that side and this side. Now I want to add another UVW modifier. With that drop down, UVW Map, box selected. See those two sides. Let me quickly admit one. Welcome. I'm just going to go on with the lesson here, sorry. As you can see, I'm resizing on the fly here. So this would resize then the front piece that we're looking at now and the one that I previously selected. Okay, there you go. And remember, always select the gizmo when you're working with a drop down to manipulate it. Okay, there you can see I've got like a little edge going on. I want to get it absolutely perfect, get all the white out there, and I want to align those lines there so that the texture goes around perfectly. So let me just turn it around here. What I want to do, I'm going to copy, and you can always copy a modifier. So UVW Map, right click, I can collapse to like I did previously, but now I'm going to copy it, and now I'm going to collapse to imprint it into the model. There you go. So now no modifiers. I'm going to select the two other sides, and I'm going to paste the same modifier that I just had onto that model, and as you can see, there's my modifier. Now with my gizmo selected once again, I can move this up and get it absolutely perfect so that it aligns with that little piece right there. That looks better. And take out all the white so you can do really accurate texturing by just breaking the model into separate polygons and little pieces. So just going to move this over. I want to get all that white out of the model. That looks good. Going to collapse to, imprint it into the model, and now, oh no, there's white left. Now look what I'm doing. I'm undoing and undoing again. Now I have my modifier back, so I can redo it. Okay, So if you do something wrong and you collapse it too, it's not the end of the world. You can always redo it. Now I'm going to collapse too after I fixed it, and now you can see it's looking perfect. Okay, so now we have 4 sides all aligned 100%, and we've got the front, everything looking 100. Okay, so guys, that's one modifier. That's a UVW map. That's to give our element a little bit of a texture and an accurate look to it. So now I want to show you how we can add dimension to this little model by adding another modifier. So with the element selected, and I'm going to tell you now why the element, I'm going to slide down and I'm going to look for slice. There's our UVW map we used earlier. There's slice. So I'm going to select slice, and now you can see it creates a little plane that slices a little line right through the entire model, and that's why I have the entire model selected. I selected the element, so now it's highlighted the entire model. That slice plane will now slice right through the model, and if I select my gizmo, I can manipulate that line. Can you guys see what I'm doing now? I'm actually slicing or creating different sets of polygons on my model right through the entire mesh. So now I'm gonna collapse that too, or I'm gonna copy. After I copy, I can paste it again. Then with my gizmo selected, my slice plane, I can move my second line down. And now, as you can see, we're starting to slice into this model, and we're creating lots of different separate polygons to it. Okay, now you have to bear with me because this is lots of copying and pasting, but just look at what I'm doing. All I'm doing is I'm copying the modifier and I'm pasting it. After I paste it, I then select a new one that got pasted there, and then I select the gizmo, the slice plane, and then I can move it up and down. So I want to create another line for these little windows here at the bottom, and it's going to become really clear after all of these lines are set and I start moving these polygons around. Then you're going to see why we're doing this. But for now, I'm cutting lines. So I want you to think of this like cutting your model into separate little pieces, although it's staying one entity. So now I want to make lines that run vertical. Now look what I do. With my slice plane, my gizmo selected, I'm going to rotate it. Now the wonderful thing is you can input rotation by just inputting it here at the bottom. So on my Z plane, I'm going to rotate by 90 degrees, and that does nothing. Okay, rotate it onto my X axis by 90 degrees, and there you can see now it's turned vertical. With my gizmo selected, I can move that line down there, and now I can cut that little piece there. Can copy my modifier, can paste it. With the gizmo selected, I can go to the next line I want to create, and repetition, copy, paste, gizmo selected. And you don't have to do the drop down and select the gizmo. All you have to do is actually click on the modifier. So when you click on the modifier, you'll see that the highlight goes away. So now you're actually inside the gizmo. You see the highlight goes away. Now I'm inside the drop down. So just a simple click. You don't have to do the drop down every time. Just have to click again on the slice plane. And it's easy to see if you don't have the modifier, the gizmo selected, because it will move your entire model, and then you can just backspace and do it again. But for all intents and purposes, this is just repetition, copy and paste, and Now that I have those lines, that concludes this front piece. Look at the back. You see there's a little problem with our texturing, not doing the same thing on both sides. That's easy to fix. Now I want to collapse all of these lines. I want to make them permanent. I'm going to collapse all, or collapse two. And there you can see we've got no more modifiers, but now look what happened. Now we've got separate polygons. So I can select with control, I can select different types of combinations what I want to use. I can select everyone, but now you can see I still need some slicing here on the sides just to create those for those little two windows. So I just want to quickly rescale this front just to show you. Okay, so with that front selected, I want to fix that. You see the lines there on the windows not lining up, and that's really easy. We copied our we copied over it, but let me quickly do the UVW map again and redo this texture. And I'm going to fit it, I'm going to move it, scale it. Let me just move it down, because then I can just pull it up. You see where my gizmo center is? So from our center, it will resize from the center up or down depending where you put the center. So from the center, I can easily scale it up. Now I just want to check my lines on the side, that it actually lines up. It's a little bit out, should be a little bit lower. That was almost perfect. That looks much better. Okay, so now I want to get these lines across from each other, but I suspect the texture doesn't fit well, so I can always flip this just by pressing that little button. So just by flipping it, now I can see it's actually fitting 100%. So to put this in perspective, what I did on the other side, all I had to do was flip my texture, and now the texture is exactly the same on this side as on the other side. So it doesn't matter about your dimensions or anything you used. It's literally just flipping the texture around and the lines will work out perfectly. But there we go, now we sorted. Okay, let me quickly show you what we can do. Because of this, now I'm gonna have polygon selected, and all I'm doing, I'm pressing control, holding in control. Okay, without control, if I move that around, you can see now I'm manipulating a polygon and adding dimension to the model. So if I move this around, you can see now we're creating a ledge or like an overhang or something like that, and we can select any polygon and move any polygon. Let me just move that back. What I want to do now is select multiple polygons. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold control and I'm going to click and select all the polygons that I want to manipulate, and with those selected, and here I'm making a balls up because I'm selecting all of them. What I want to do, I want to bevel these, and if you bevel something, you bevel them from one side. So this that I'm trying now, it's not going to work. I'm going to try and bevel this whole entire thing, and bevel, you just scroll down, there's a bevel button right there by your edit polygons. Extrude, sorry, we're not going to bevel, we're going to extrude, yes. So with the extrude button on, now I can pull on any face and pull it in and out. But you see what's happening to my other pieces. Now I'm manipulating the entire thing instead of the individual sides. Now I'm going to fix this quickly. I'm going to show you. I'm going to deselect all of these. Only going to have this one side selected. So let me undo, and redo. Okay. With extrude on, now I can just click and pull. And as you can see, now I'm creating dimension in my model without breaking, without pulling the pulling the lines or actually moving the entire model. So I'm just extruding those little polygons. Move that out, and I'm creating the roof. So just with all the little polygons selected, holding control, gonna move this little piece out also. That's about right. And this side here also gonna move out. Okay, so that's extrude function. So now I've taught you UVW map, your slice plane, and extrude, and that's what I use to make this little model. Let me just resize this so it looks a little bit better. It's a factory after all, not a power box. Okay, so now I want to think of creating like a little roof structure. Let me quickly just get my slice plane going here. I want to slice it even a little bit further, so we have a little bit of dimension. So what I'm going to do, just going to slice this little top piece here and collapse to, and I want to create vertex that I can select on top. So I want to try and get all of these top vertex selected. Just going to pull a little line over them and then check. Oops, I selected other ones. I'm going to hold Alt to deselect them. See if I've got everything. That looks perfect. And now I've got a choice of things to do. I can just move them, but I am going to resize them. So by resizing them, you can see you can do a lot of things. I'm just going to resize them there, and I'm going to pull them up, and as you can see, now we're starting to create a little roof. And you can manipulate it any way you want. Want this a little bit more to the center. Excuse me. Okay, and now you can see there's all our lines. That's polygons we can select. And now I want to give that roof a different texture. So open my material browser. I'm quickly gonna scroll down to, and this is where yours is the same, the base color. Select the bitmap lookup, and let me just go to roof material quickly. So this one, or let me take this one, it's going to be visually better. Okay, so let me assign it to that, and now you can see the scaling is out. Totally stretch the site. So with all of those polygons selected, I'm going to UVW map again, and now you see that it's got the planar selected. The planar is looking nice on both sides, but it's a little bit scaled. So cylindrical, also looking not right on top. So spherical, shrink wrap, and I think box is going to work best here. You see, that's box 100%, looking great from all sides. Now let me resize this. So by resizing this, you'll see that it's reacting a little bit different on each side. It's specifically because we're working with a slanted side. So with flat sides, this UVW map is the perfect thing to do with a box. On slanted sides, you have to manipulate it a little bit more. Let me just copy that modifier because I want to use it and collapse it. So now I've got this side perfect. It's looking great all round. Now with the polygon selected, I just want to select this side. And what I want to do, I want to turn these tiles sideways so that it looks realistic. The mapping at the moment, it's supposed to be like that. If you if you can see the sides. But let me quickly paste my UVW map again with the box, and as you see, it leaves all the previous things on, and you can align it X, Y or Z. So what I'm going to do, oops, I selected one too many polygon this side. Okay, what you can do in that case, just go to your polygon again, deselect it. Sorry, let me press Alt, not Windows button, and then I can go back with that polygon selected. I can go back into my UVW map. As you can see, I didn't collapse the UVW map, so it's still on there. Okay, so now let's resize it and try and get it perfectly matched up. So what I'm gonna do here, I have to resize it on the, or move it closer. Okay, there we go. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to resize it so it fits 100% on that side piece there. That looks great. Okay. That looks perfect. Just a little bit smaller. And move it a little bit. And that's it. Now I can collapse this one. I'm happy with that. Copy it first. Collapse to. Perfect. And now you can see what I did there. I made it scroll around. Want to do the same with this little piece here. Want to swing this UVW map around so it follows the ridge of the sides of the material. So let's quickly add it in here, but we're not going to add it, we're going to paste it. Delete that one, paste that one, there we go. Okay, and now select my modifier. As you can see, we've got one side that's out, so we're going to need to move that side also. Just realized that. But let me just get this one right. We need to line this up here. That looks perfect. And I'm going to copy that one again, and I'm going to collapse to. Stick it to the model. There, it's burned in. Now this side, you can see this scaling is out, and I'm just going to do the same thing that side. Quickly align it with the y-axis by just pressing the selecting the y-axis there, and now I can just move it and scroll it around until I'm happy with the result. Let me just move it over so it's easier for me to work closer to the actual side. Just gonna resize it, and I think I'm happy with that. Just move it up a little bit, and that looks great. Okay, if it stays there, okay, collapse to, and there you go. And now what you have there basically is a perfect warehouse. Not perfect by any means, but with a little work you can cut, bring out the, or take in the windows a little bit and work further on it. You can even cut out those doors. We can do a little different material here at the bottom, but by selecting the polygons, and do a little tile, or I'm just going to do a color in this case. So what I'm going to do, just select these pieces. It moved a little bit, and all I'm going to do is assign a color to it. So that's the white color selected, and there you go. There we have our entire model textured 100%. And if you import that into Unreal Engine, it will give you the opportunity to put any texture in there, like a tile or anything, instead of the white texture we've got on there. We already did the scaling, so the scaling is perfect. So you can always save this model and work further from there. But thank you guys, that's our presentation. Okay.